What is up, Yoshis? My name is Beth and I run Steadfast, Ascent, and today I would like to introduce you to my favorite DAW. If you've never opened Logic before, this video is for you. I'm going to be looking partly at my computer and partly at you, but if you are opening Logic for the first time, you should see something like this. You should have choose a project, it should be set to new project, and it should be empty. You might actually get started with project templates or demo projects, but it doesn't really matter which one it is because today we're just gonna start with a multi-track project because why not? You can pick any one of these and they will get you started depending on what kind of music you are trying to get into. So you choose your preset or your project and it looks something a little like this. You've got a bunch of audio tracks, no virtual instrument tracks, no drummer tracks, just simply this. Now, if you're going to spend any time in Logic, the first thing you should do upon opening it is hop up onto Logic Pro X, Preferences, Advanced Tools. Click on this. Then make sure that all of these boxes are checked. Because if you do not have them checked, you will be missing out on so many things that are possible to do with Logic. And so just make sure those are checked and then click Enable and you'll just be in great shape to get started and get going. The next thing you might want to know is that this little question mark button, quick help button it's called. This might be really super handy for you when you are just getting started because it will show you, as you can see, all of the things, the important things that are happening inside of the workstation. The nice handy thing about it is that if you have this button activated, now obviously when I have this quick help button it shows all the different things, but if you're just confused about something you can click that button and then hover over the thing that you're confused about. So like here, Groups Inspector determines which controls can be edited from the entire channel strip group at the same time. Now granted, if this is your first time in Logic, you may or may not know what all those words mean, but this is a great place to get started if you have some experience and are just trying to get used to the workstation itself. Knowing these things, let's actually get rid of most of these. Let's leave 2 audio tracks. So what I did there is I selected by using Shift, and I went Shift and clicked, and that will select as many of the tracks as you select. And then I just pressed Delete. If you have regions in the recording, it will freak out and ask you if that's really what you want to do, which it may or may not be. I'm also going to close this arrangement section here. As you can see, there's all sorts of different information that you might want to know about. You can set your tempo up here just by dragging up and down. I'm going to go back to 120. And you can also set your key, which I tend to do because if I'm retuning and detuning my guitar, it's helpful to know what chords I'm actually playing. And so I will set my key signature. You can change your time signature up here. And you can even change this entire view. I like to keep it on the Beats and Project Large, but you can change the whole view so that you can fit more things across the top, or so that you can see what time you're going at, or you can customize it for your own self. Now, again, I like to keep it here. You have available to you many different kinds of tracks. Now, obviously with this preset that I've opened, we've only got audio tracks, but if you come up here to Track and you click New Tracks, you can already see there's a bunch of different kinds of tracks, but we'll click New Tracks. And up here, it has arranged all of the different kinds of tracks that you can add. Now, for the most part, you probably will be using software instrument, audio, and drummer. So let's add a couple software instrument tracks. I'm gonna add 2 for good measure. Yeah, nice, got my classical electric piano. You see those are both selected, so I just clicked and dragged those underneath my audio tracks. And then I'm also, let's go ahead and add a drummer track. I'm just gonna click New Drummer Track, and as you can see up here, there is the shortcut for how you would do that faster. Now, as you can see, my drummer track comes preloaded with a kind of drum beat. The drummer feature is super nice because you can edit the kind of play that you do with this section down here in the bottom. So right now it's doing mostly kick, snare, and hi-hat. Now I can always change that to see how aggressive my hi-hat will be. I can add extra percussion, which would be tambourine, shaker, and hands. Kick and snare, as you can see, I can increase the swing. I can increase the percentage of fills that I will or won't have. Drummer is really fun. As you play it, you'll see, oh, it does this thing, and if you move it around, it changes what your drummer is doing. Let's say you've got yourself an interface connected. If you want to use that interface, you're gonna need to go into Logic Pro, Preferences, Audio, and select as the input the interface. Now, as you can see, I have a bunch of different things, but your interface should just come up with the name of your thing. So for example, when I use my pedal board, I have Firehawk FX on there, or Pod Go. This is my UX1 plugged in. Now, I can use that both as the input, so what I plug my guitar or my mics into, and the output. So if I want to plug in my headphones, I can also select that. Now, once you've made these changes, you will need to click Apply Changes, and that will make the change, and that will allow for your DAW to register that there's sound. Now, when you're ready to record, there's a couple different ways that you can. First of all, you can just come up here and click this button. Now, if you're going to do that, make sure that you have your marker set at the point on the timeline that you are interested in recording from. So for me, if I was recording with this, I would be interested in starting at the beginning. And so I could just press this little button, except apparently I don't have it. Oh, except I haven't set an input source for my audio track. Where can I find that? So with my audio track and my information open, here, as we can see, I have not selected an input. So I'm going to choose input 1. Depending on your interface, you might have different inputs, and if you're like using a mixing board, you'll have all sorts of different inputs. If you're using just an interface, you'll probably have one. This one has up to 4 inputs, so you need to choose which input you're doing. Now, this is a mono input right now. I can make it a stereo just by clicking on this little circle. So now I've got my instrument input 1 through 2, 1 and 2, so to speak. I could also choose my instrument 3 and 4. Sorry, input 3 and 4. But for now, we're gonna do that. So now that we have an input, we can record. You just click your button and it goes. Bam, there it is. Now, if you haven't set it yet, this is gonna be really obnoxious because you're gonna be trying to click and trying to play at the same time. No, my friends. Go ahead and click on record, click on count in, and choose however many bars of count in you would like to have. I usually like 2 bars of count in. So I just selected this region by clicking on it, pressing delete. I'm gonna delete this recorded audio file. Darn, I can't undo it, but there was nothing there anyway, so we're all good. Now, what I prefer to do is I prefer to just simply press the R button. And that will do the same thing as clicking this button up here. Neato. So now, yes, I'm deleting that. Okay, so let's set this back to a mono instrument, and let's set this, say, to input 2. Okay. Because if you want to record more than one track at the same time, you can click these little R's, and that means that when you record, it'll do its 2 bars of count in, and then as soon as it hits that marker, boom, you're recording multi-tracks. So if you have an interface with multiple inputs, you can plug in a mic, you can plug in a guitar, you can record these things at the same time, and that is how. So what about these software instruments, right? Okay. When you click on the software instrument, hopefully your library is open. If not, it's this top left button over here. And here you have access to all of Logic's preset sounds. So as you can see, there's a lot to choose from. And depending on what you are really going for, will determine what you are interested in really going for. Their synthesizer thing just has stuff upon stuff upon stuff of stuff to look at. Now, this is all good, but I'm just going to highlight real quick user patches, because if and as you save user patches, or if you upload other users' patches, they'll be found here. Now, the legacy button is where things start to get really interesting, because if you've downloaded any jam packs, obviously you see that I have all these different jam packs full of different sounds that I can use. So like, boom, Ensemble Trill 2. Logic, the previous versions of Logic had a little bit of a different organization for their sounds, and that can all be found in here. And it is expanded and more than just what is happening inside, your studio strings and cinematic and blah, 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 blah. Which is all to say that you have a lot of sounds at your fingertips when you choose a software instrument. And that's just within Logic. That's not even talking about anything that you can add in to Logic. So I have my extra strings. Let's go ahead and add studio violins because we can. That's all great to have these sounds. If you don't have a MIDI keyboard plugged in or a MIDI controller, well, good news for you. If you press Command K, or I think it's also Window, maybe it's not Window. Oh yeah, it is Window. Musical typing. Yeah, Command K. So now you can use your literal keyboard. Oh, I pressed R. Okay. So now you can use your literal keyboard to be making sounds. And that's pretty exciting. It should be pretty exciting to you because it gives you access to just make whatever the frick you want. To do editing with those sounds, as you can see right here, it's opened with this scissors button in the top left corner. I have a piano roll. Now with the piano roll, I could, go in and I could record these things, but I can also, if I press Command, I can use my mouse button to make noises. Oh snap. Now my violins would be playing because I have written musical notes in. So if, say this wasn't a violin, say this was, let's just choose a random drum kit. Yeah, East Bay. Well, who needs the drummer track? I'm clicking on it and pressing Command Delete, and that is going to delete the whole region and the track. Nope, I want to do drums myself. As you can see, they have a handy dandy showing you what noise you are making with the drums. And so I can be like, ah yes, boom, boom. Let's see, where's the snare? Pow. Boom, boom, pow, pow. I just made a drum beat. You might, of course, be interested also in making more than one drum sound, so I'm pressing Command D and duplicating all of these drums. And if I was interested, I could do kick, I could do snare. Yes, snare, the very sophisticated snare drum. And so with this, now I can choose, yes, I'm going to mix over here in my information booth. Yeah, maybe I want to change my channel EQ, and I want to choose a preset for my kick. Wow, that was easy. Now my kick is gonna sound like a kick, and I can take my snares. I'm gonna Command X, and wherever I want to paste them, say I put it in the time marker, bam, snare, channel EQ, ba-da-ba-da-ba-ding, ba-da-ba-da-ba-doo, looky there, natural snare. Natural snare, apparently, if you're me. So, with that being said, you have most of the tools you need to get started in Logic right now. And so I would encourage you to go forth and make some music. So once you have a recording, which obviously right now we don't have much, but let's say that this is a recording. We can use these tracks, and I'm going to close this so that we can see all of our tracks. We can use these tracks and the information box to help us do the mixing. So let's pretend this is a guitar track. If I open the library, I could find some presets that would pre-mix my electric guitar for me. Boom, crunch guitar. I'm choosing randomly Phantom Tremolo. And let's just say this is a vocal track. Yep, same thing. If I have my library open, I can do the presets and I can be like, yeah, obviously edge vocal, that's what I want. Now really what you would be doing is you would be listening as it's playing and choosing all of these different things and seeing how they sound and why you do or don't like them. But for the sake of just showing you what you're doing here, as you can see, I opened this vocal track. It says Bright Vocal, and we have our plugins over right here. Now, we can turn the plugins on and off by pressing the on and off button, which is on the far left of the plugin. And we can edit them by, when we hover over them, clicking on the line with the dots. That will open up the box that will tell you all of the specifics about what you do or do not want to use with that. And so in this case, obviously, the delay is great, but I don't want it. If you want to choose a different plugin, you can click on the little arrows, and you have here before ye all of the different plugins that are available to you. Now, if this is your first time opening Logic, then probably when you hover over audio units, you will just have Apple. That's great, because you have a couple extra stuff in here that you have access to, but otherwise, everything that you need is pretty much found right here. And then Apple does this handy dandy thing where they put the 5 most recently used plugins right on top. So if you're just going through and like applying a noise gate, boom, noise gate. You just apply it over and over to your tracks. You can do that from here. Do all your mixing. This is your volume knob. This is your pan knob. You move your mouse up and down, move your mouse side to side. If you are more interested in seeing something like a mixing console, then you're going to want to press Command 2. Command 2 will open up a mixing console. And so from here, you can see everything a little more clearly. You're not going to be able to exactly have as much access to your library, although if you wanted to, you could technically be like, whoa, okay, so my cymbals, yeah, I want the cymbal sounds to sound from an electronic drum kit like the GB. I think it's GarageBand, but I'm not sure. Boom. but that window will be set aside. And so as you're listening to your track, you can be doing the mixing and having the good time. You can just close it. And that also can be found here under Windows. So the main window is Command 1, Mixer is Command 2, Smart Controls Command 3, and so on and so forth. So you've got it mixed, you've got your recording done. When you're ready to do the things with the things, you can always export your selections or your files as AAFs or XMLs or MIDI tracks as MIDI tracks. You can bounce your project or the section, and if you choose to do that, something like this will pop up. So you can choose like, yeah, I want to do an MP3 and I want it to be 16-bit and I want to go from this section to that section, and choose the sections that you are going to export to. Alternately, you can always click share and share the song to iTunes or straight to SoundCloud or straight to GarageBand. For iOS, as you can see, there are some places that you can just share directly to. Now, the one thing I will say about this is that it doesn't give you as much control over what you are actually doing with your project as the Bounce project or section does. The last thing I will point out is that you do have a master track. This master track can be edited using master functions, and so if you want to choose a strip setting, you'll click on the setting and you'll choose from the presets. For example, here we have some factory settings, modern rock, and that'll automatically apply a bunch of mastering presets, well, plugins to within a preset. There's also legacy options here, so for mastering I might be like, yes, my final heavy, that is the one I want, and that will just set all of that, preset all of that for you from that track. Again, in the mixing window, that'll be your master, and then you also have a final master track. You know what? I'm really confused about this master track now. Well, guess we have something to learn. Let me know if you know what that master track actually is and how I should be using it. So that's what I have to show you today. If this is your first time in Logic, welcome. I think it's a great place to be and a great place to make recordings. Hopefully you are now equipped to do all the things that you are interested in doing. If you have more questions about specific functions in Logic or how maybe some of these plugins work or whatever, just let us know in the comments. We'll be happy to help each other. If this video has helped you at all, it helps me if you leave it a like, and if you're interested in learning more about home recording as a solo musician, feel free to subscribe because that sort of thing drops around here pretty often. Thank you so much, since you made it this far, for watching.